There is a version of you that has never been touched by anything that happened to you. Not by the childhood that shaped you into smallness. Not by the relationships that confirmed your worst fears about yourself. Not by the years of trying to become someone worthy of the life you actually wanted. This version of you was not damaged by any of it. It did not shrink. It did not doubt. It did not apologize. It has been here, quietly, patiently, completely, the entire time. In 1904, a British judge named Thomas Troward wrote about this self. He called it the I Am, and what he said about it is so fundamentally different from everything the self-help world teaches, that if it lands the way it is meant to, it will not just change how you think about yourself. It will change the ground you are standing on. Stay with us, because in the next 20 minutes, we are going to dismantle something that has been running your life from underneath every thought you have ever had. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The self we learn to perform. Let us start where we actually are, not where we wish we were, not where we are trying to get to, where we actually are. For most of us, the self we move through the world as is a constructed thing. It was built over time from the materials available to us, which were not always good materials. Some of us were handed a self that was told it was too much, too loud, too needy, too emotional, too big for the room, and so we compressed. We learned to take up less space. We learned to monitor our volume, not just in how loudly we spoke, but in how much of ourselves we allowed to be visible. Some of us were handed a self that was told it was not enough, not smart enough, not pretty enough, not successful enough, not lovable enough. And so we began the long, exhausting project of proving otherwise. We achieved things. We performed. We became very good at a version of ourselves that could be approved of. And some of us, most of us, experienced both of these simultaneously. Too much in some rooms, not enough in others. Learning to shapeshift between the two until we could no longer remember what the original shape had been. This is what the nervous system does. It is not a failure of character. It is an adaptation. When we are young, and the people around us respond to our authentic self, with discomfort, with withdrawal, with anger, with silence, the nervous system draws one very fast, very efficient conclusion. Being fully yourself is not safe. And so it builds an alternative, a managed self, a performed self, a self calibrated not to what is true, but to what is tolerated. And this performed self becomes so habitual, so automatic, that we stop experiencing it as performance. We start experiencing it as identity. We start calling it personality. We start calling it just the way I am. And the tragedy, the thing that Troward spent his life trying to address, is that we begin to mistake this constructed self for the whole of what we are. We look at the anxious version, the apologizing version, the version that flinches before anyone even raises their voice, and we say, that is me. We look at the tired version, the one that cannot receive love without bracing for its removal, the one that succeeds and immediately begins to wait for failure, and we say, that is me. But Troward said something else entirely. He said, that is not the self. That is what the self learned. And there is a difference. That changes absolutely everything. Because if who we are is learned, then what we have learned is not the end of the story. Stay with us. The twofold nature of the I Am. Thomas Troward was not a monk. He was not a guru in a mountain cave. He was a British civil servant, a judge who spent decades in India, making legal decisions, and quietly, obsessively, studying the deepest laws of the human mind. He came back to England, and in 1904 delivered a series of lectures in Edinburgh that would go on to influence some of the most significant teachers of the 20th century. Neville Goddard, who most of you know, credited Troward directly. Neville's entire body of work, The Law of Assumption, Living from the End, The idea that consciousness is the only reality traces its philosophical foundation to what Troward taught. So when we study Troward, we are not going sideways. We are going upstream. We are finding the source. And what Troward said about the self begins with a line from Walt Whitman, a poet who wrote, "I am not all contained between my hat and my boots." Troward built an entire philosophy from this single observation. He said, "We have forgotten the twofold nature of the I am. We have forgotten that the self is at once both the manifested and the unmanifested, both the individual and the universal, both the particular expression, and the infinite source from which the expression arises." Think about this carefully. When we look at ourselves, we see the manifested part, the body, the personality, the history, the particular human being who was born into a particular family, in a particular place, and developed a particular set of adaptations to survive. That is the manifested part, and it is real. It is not to be dismissed or transcended or escaped. But Troward said it is not the whole. It is, as he put it, only part of the self. And when we try to live from only part of the self, when we try to solve our problems, build our lives, understand our worth, using only the manifested, conditioned, constructed part, we are trying to make half, do the work of the whole, and half is never enough, which is why it always feels like something is missing, which is why the achievement never quite satisfies, which is why the relationship is beautiful, and yet something underneath it still feels unresolved, because we are operating from a fraction of what we are. The other part, the unmanifested, the universal, the I am that exists before and beyond. Every conditioned response we have ever had, that part is not something we need to find. It is not something we need to earn. It is not waiting for us to be healed enough, or spiritual enough, or evolved enough to access it. It is, Troward said, already here. It has always been here. It is, in fact, the most fundamental thing about us, the part that gives rise to everything else. The most important 3 words Troward ever wrote. Troward wrote a section in this chapter with 3 words as its title. 3 words that, if you let them land properly, will dismantle the structure of limitation more completely than any practice, any method, any technique you have ever tried. The 3 words are, I am is one. Let us stay here for a moment, because this is not a spiritual platitude. This is a precise logical argument. Troward said, there are not 2 spirits, one which is yourself, and one which is something greater, external, separate. There is not some vast universal intelligence, operating out there somewhere, with motives that may or may not align with yours, that might help you if you ask correctly, that might withhold from you if you are not worthy enough. That conception, however comforting it has sometimes felt, is, Troward said, a fundamental misunderstanding of reality. There is only one I am, and that I am is expressing itself, not just through you, but as you, not through your particular individuality. As water might flow through a pipe, the pipe being separate from the water, but as you, the way an ocean wave is not separate from the ocean. It is the ocean expressed in that particular form, in that particular moment. Now think about what this means practically. Troward asked a direct question. He said, can you conceive the great originating life principle of the universe? As poor, as weak, as sordid, miserable, jealous, angry, anxious, uncertain? Can you conceive the intelligence that creates and sustains everything? As fundamentally lacking, as not enough? The answer, obviously, is no. We cannot conceive of it that way. It is logically impossible. And then Troward said, because the I am is one, it is equally untrue of you. Every limitation you have accepted about yourself, every story that fear wrote about who you are and what you deserve, every version of not enough that got layered onto you by circumstance, by conditioning, by the wounds of people who were themselves wounded, none of it is the I am. All of it is the manifested self, operating in temporary misunderstanding of what it actually is. The I am, your deepest, truest, most fundamental self, cannot be poor, cannot be unworthy, cannot be unlovable, cannot be deficient in any way, not because we are saying nice things about you, but because the I am is one, and the one life that moves through everything does not produce deficient expressions of itself. This is the point where most teachings stop. They tell you that you are one with everything, and then leave you to figure out what to do with that on a Tuesday morning, when the anxiety is back, and the bank account is low, and the relationship feels precarious, and none of this feels true at all. Troward did not stop here. He kept going, and what he said next is what makes this teaching not just beautiful, but practically usable. Troward said the shift does not happen through force, not through willpower, not through endlessly repeating affirmations, while the body quietly refuses to believe a single word. He said the shift happens through recognition, and recognition is a very specific thing. It is not the same as belief. You can believe something and still not recognize it. Belief is a mental position. Recognition is something closer to remembering. The difference is this: when you believe something, there is still a part of you that is holding the opposite possibility open. You believe you are worthy, but somewhere underneath, the nervous system is still running the old program, still scanning for the threat, still waiting for the thing to be taken away. Recognition is different. Recognition is the moment. The constructed self steps back far enough to notice what has been here all along. It is like you have been living in a house, and one room has always been locked. You have been told the room is empty. You have been told there is nothing in there. And one day, not because you forced it, not because you achieved enough, not because you finally became worthy, the door opens, and you see that the room has not been empty. It has been full. It has been full the entire time. That is recognition. That is what Troward was pointing toward. Now, practically, how does this happen? Troward said it begins with a very simple but radical act. He said, learn first to distinguish the true self that you are from the mental and physical processes, which it throws forth as instruments of its expression. In plain language, begin to notice the difference between the one who experiences and the experiences themselves. The anxious thought is an experience. The one who notices the anxious thought, that is closer to the I am. The story about why you are not enough, that is an experience. The one who watches the story being told, that is closer to the I am. The grief, the fear, the performance, the exhaustion, all experiences, all real, all valid, all worthy of compassion, but none of them are the one who is aware of them. And the one who is aware, the quiet, steady, undefended witness, behind all the noise of the conditioned self, that is what Troward called the I am. That is what Gabor Mate, a century later, would call the authentic self. That is what Joe Dispenza points toward when he speaks of the observer, what neuroscience calls metacognition, the capacity to observe one's own mental processes. Troward simply called coming home to the I am. And here is what happens when this recognition begins to deepen. Troward said, as we gradually grow into the habit of finding this inspiring presence within ourselves, a great harmony will come into our lives, not because we have forced the external world to change, not because we have manifested correctly, or held the right vibration, or performed the right rituals, but because we are no longer operating from the fractured, frightened, half-self that thought it was the whole. We are operating from the whole, and the whole, naturally, organically, without strain, begins to express itself differently in the life we are living, the lived experience of recognition. We want to be honest about something. This does not happen all at once. The nervous system does not receive one insight and immediately reorganize itself. The body that learned smallness over years does not expand into wholeness overnight. And Troward was honest about this too. He spoke of a growing intimacy, not a sudden arrival, a continuous and growing recognition of this presence within. What does this growing recognition actually feel like? In daily life, feels like a moment of stillness in the middle of the old pattern. You are about to apologize for something that does not require an apology. And for 1 second, something pauses, something watches, and in that pause, there is a question: does this actually need an apology? Or is this the old program, running without permission? Feels like being able to let good things stay, not gripping them, not immediately scanning for when they will leave, just allowing them to be present, without the bracing. Feels like being in a room where you would previously have made yourself smaller, and noticing that something in you has simply stopped shrinking, not through force, not through a decision, but because the ground you are standing on has shifted from outside to inside. And when the ground is inside, nothing outside can take it. This is what Troward meant by the I am that has its head in heaven and its feet on the earth, fully present in the manifested life, in the relationships, the work, the ordinary Tuesday, but rooted in something that the ordinary Tuesday cannot disturb. That is not detachment. That is the opposite of detachment. That is the fullest possible engagement with life, from a self that is no longer terrified of what life might do to it. Close. 19 to 20 hours. We want to leave you with the question that Troward left his audience with. More than 100 years ago, he said, "Can you conceive the great life principle as limited in any way, as insufficient, as unworthy? You cannot. Then remember, the I am is one. What is true of the whole is true of the expression. What is true of the ocean is true of the wave. You are not a separate, deficient, struggling self, trying to connect to something greater. You are the greater, expressed in this particular form, in this particular life, in this particular moment. The I am that you are has never been diminished, has never doubted you, has never required you to earn it. It has been here, quietly, patiently, completely, the entire time. The work is not to become it. The work is to stop insisting you are something less. This is episode 1 of the Thomas Troward Hidden Power series. If something in this shifted something in you, save this video, not just for yourself, for the person in your life who is still living as the half-self, who has forgotten what was never actually lost.